When it comes to horror, the genre in anime is something of an art form. Not to say that anime itself isn't art, but when anime wants to disturb and scare you, it has a special way of doing so. Be it in the form of blood or psychological writing, these shows can terrify you, and they can get away with just about anything. In my personal experience of watching horror anime, I've dove into some of the mainstream titles out there that have gained popularity over the years. Anime like Another or Corpse Party are some that I have trouble watching to this day, but that's mostly from my own tendency to watch stuff that makes me uneasy. Blood and gore isn't abnormal in these horror titles. The entirety of Another is based around solving a mystery before a school's curse can claim the lives of every student in the class. To this day, playing or watching Corpse Party sticks in my mind as one of the most disgusting series I have ever laid eyes on. But word of mouth, or perhaps word of text, brought forth an anime that nobody even seemed to remember. Not entirely, anyway. Back in 2011, a thread on the X-Paranormal board on 4chan, a user asked for the scariest thing people have found on the dark web. Another user responded with the description of a 1980s-style anime, and it launched a hunt that is ongoing to this day. Described with the title Go For A Punch, this anonymous user detailed an anime about a handful of girls all trapped inside of a bathroom. There are no doors, windows, vents, or any other way out of this room. While things seemed rather ordinary at first, things get dark fast. With no hope to escape the room they're trapped in, the girls opt to take their own lives rather than starve inside of their prison. As the user tells us, they do so in some very gruesome ways, such as bashing their heads into the ground or by digging their nails into their throats. Just by this description alone, I think it's understandable why some people would want to watch something like this. People have a morbid curiosity when it comes to violence, especially this level of gore that displays death in such awful ways. At one point, the original poster describes one of the girls asking another to hold her head underwater, simply because she cannot force herself to stay under. The show has been said to have a runtime of just under half an hour. The name Saki Sanobashi was brought up to the OP, but they never responded to that title, or any post relating to the anime ever again. After that, the trail seemingly went cold. The search itself went silent for a few years. It seemed that the show was destined to be forgotten. Or so it appeared. A few years later, the name started popping up in threads yet again, mentioning the name Saki Sanobashi and questioning if anyone had seen it, or if it even existed. This was when the real search began. 4 years after the initial thread, people were finally starting to take interest. Even so, they weren't getting any closer to finding anything close to what they were searching for. In fact, most of the information that is brought up on future 4chan threads were nothing more than dead ends. Nothing by the name of Go For A Punch or Saki Sanobashi was turning up any results. It was a possibility that the show wasn't named that at all, since the original post claimed that to find this show on the dark web, it's likely that Go For A Punch isn't the name of the show at all. But without a title, they were left searching for just a scenario. By this point, with everything turning up empty and believability and the following slowly starting to die off, it seemed like hope of ever finding this anime was starting to fade. But luckily, this show was gaining traction outside of 4chan. A subreddit was created, dedicating to finding this show. A lot of people were invested in this anime, and all these people wanted was to find Saki Sanobashi, or whatever it was truly titled, and finally put this mystery to rest. Videos detailing the search for this anime began to upload onto YouTube, with some larger channels covering the topics on multiple occasions. Wang, who just posted a third update to the search, as well as a channel I follow closely myself, Blame It on Jorge, have both mentioned Saki Sanobashi on numerous occasions. Now that the name was finding itself off of just 4chan and Reddit, and into a wider audience, that meant that Saki Sanobashi was gaining popularity. More and more people wanted to find this show. Maybe to watch it with a sick sense of curiosity, or maybe it was just the satisfaction of finding lost media that it was so heavily sought after. That was, until a bombshell was dropped on the search. Almost a year ago at the time of this video, a user by the name of Saki Sanobashi OP posted on the subreddit, claiming to be the original poster from that 4chan thread almost a decade ago. They claim to have made it all up, providing a few screenshots in their post, and admitting to wanting to mess with the creator of the thread for being so gullible as to ask people for the scariest thing they would find on the dark web. They said that they wanted to clear their conscience, having started to feel bad about lying to such a huge amount of people about a show with a story they claim to be an obvious lie. The post on Reddit ends with an apology for having tricked us all for so long. And with that, it's revealed that this show was nothing more than a hoax. It was made up for a joke on 4chan, and that was meant to be the end of it. Perhaps that was our mistake for believing something like this. It's not hard to see why so many people latched onto this story. I mentioned earlier that if anime wants to be terrifyingly gory, it will likely be just that. Examples like Elfen Lied and Another prove that on their own. That sort of gross-out horror is what a lot of people are interested in. While doing the searching for this show, I wanted it to be real. Saki Sanobashi was nothing more than a joke made up by somebody on the internet. Or was it? Mentioned in the Reddit post, the poster claims that they can't prove that they are indeed the OP from 4chan all those years ago. On top of that, multiple people claiming to have been the original poster from back then have also popped up, and it's rather obvious that they can't all be telling the truth. There was a comment claiming to have watched the show at a LAN party, describing a similar plot to the original. 9 girls locked in a dungeon, as opposed to a bathroom as previously described, and would be rewarded for killing one another with food. A similar premise to what was described, meaning that if this is true, Saki Sanobashi, or at least a show that's similar, exists out there. It was said to have the title of 9 Angles. FNEO has created a page detailing the search, and even showed that the term "go for a punch" began to pop up in Google search results back in 2004. This was of course years before the supposed 4chan joke was posted. An archive of old animes from back in 2000 was found, with something similar to Saki Sanobashi listed, meaning that the premise and the animation existed at one point. As of now, this is the latest update of the search for the show. And that's it. It's a rather unsatisfying ending, but the search is still in progress. It always seems like the leads that could be used to find the show are either severed or come up short. I stumbled upon this with intent to make a short video in between larger projects, but Saki Sanobashi quickly caught my interest. I would like to believe that this show exists, although it could be a long time before the internet finally pieces the crumbs together. Regardless, apparently there are a few artists who plan on creating an animation based on the premise, initially described in that first 4chan thread. One way or another, I think Saki Sanobashi will be found one day. At the very least, we can hope that somebody will somehow stumble upon this lost anime.